Okay, we are on Lamed Vav Amud Beis. Let's get the computer set. We're ready to roll. Okay. We're on Lamed Vav Amud Beis, a few lines from the bottom. Thank Morris for setting up the computer. Gufa, 3 lines from the bottom. The last thing that we said yesterday, we spoke about this dish that contained flour, oil, honey. And there was a question, what was the bracha on this dish? It was contained flour or honey. And Kahana said that you make a bar mitzvah mizonos on that dish. Because he says as long as it has flour in it, there's flour in it, you go ahead and you say a bar mitzvah mizonos. That was the opinion of Kahana. And then the Gemara says that the opinion of Kahana is very logical because Rav and Shmuel went on record and said in a general statement that something that contains the 5 species, wheat, barley, oat, spelt, rye, then that becomes and it's there to give a taste. Then the bracha is a bar mitzvah mizonos. And Tosfos points out that if you put in some flour just to hold it together, then that would not, and it's not for the purpose of taste, then you would not say a bar mitzvah mizonos. You just add some flour just to keep the ingredients together. That is the opinion that we had now. Now the Gemara today is going to go into detail regarding this statement that we just said. Gufa. So we're going back 3 lines from the bottom. Now the Gemara is going to analyze the statement. That's the way of the Gemara. The Gemara brings in a statement, and then now, good morning, Yaron. Yaron, how are you? The Gemara brings in a statement, and as a result of that, then the Gemara wants to analyze that statement. Yaron, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
How are you?
The Gemara says like this: Gufa. Yaron, are you able to hear me or not?
I do, Rabbi. Yes.
Yaron,
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So the Gemara says, Gufa. Ravu Shmuel Darma Tavayu. You have 3 lines from the bottom. Ravu Shmuel Darma Tavayu. Kol sheyesh b'chamesh aminim v'varachal barim minim mizonos. They made a statement. Anything that contains kol sheyesh bo b'chamesh aminim. Anything that contains from the 5 species, you say barim minim mizonos. That's one statement they said. Then they said another statement. Itmenami. Ravu Shmuel Domer Tavra Kol Shehu Mechameshes Aminim. Anything, if it is the 5 species, Mevorachal of Berman Mizonos. What's the difference of the 2 statements? The first statement is anything that contains in the mixture from the 5 species. That's statement number 1. Statement number 2 is anything that is the 5 species. Anything that is means it's by itself. Wheat by itself, barley by itself, oat by itself, you say Barman and Mizonos. So the Gemara has a following question. What does Rav and Shmuel need to tell me these 2 different statements? One, if the grains, the wheat, the barley, the oat, the spelt rye is mixed with other foods, the bracha becomes on that mixture Mizonos. Or if it's by itself, the wheat, the barley, the oat, the spelt, the rye is by itself. You just have wheat. You have noodles. Noodles is by let's say any other ingredient besides noodles. I mean certain things that's just wheat. Things that are just wheat. It's not mixed with other things. Why are you going to tell me both statements? If you tell me that if the wheat is mixed with other foods, it still is a bar mitzvah mizonos. Certainly, if the wheat is by itself, it's a bar mitzvah mizonos. Is that clear, Morris? Is it clear what the Gemara's question? What the Gemara's question?
Good morning, Rabbi.
The Gemara's question is, Yosef Tzadik, good morning.
בוקר טוב, Rabbi. בוקר טוב
The
לכולם.
Gemara's question is, why do we need both statements of Rav Shmuel? A statement when the wheat is mixed with other foods that the bracha is mizonos, and the wheat is by itself, it's a mizonos. You don't need to tell me both. Just tell me if the wheat is mixed with other foods, it's mizonos. Certainly when the wheat is by itself, it's in mizonos. Is that clear? Mr. Haber, is the Gemara's question clear? Okay, that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers the following.
Rabbi,
Gemara says,
why the Gemara we won't understand?
Sricha. That's the bottom line. The last line of the page is Sricha. Good morning, Ariel. Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning. Okay, so the Gemara says Sricha. We need
Rabbi, Yaron have a
both
question.
statements.
Rabbi,
Why do we need both statements? Meaning everything is coming to
Rabbi,
teach us something.
I think his volume is
The
down.
koshahu. If you would have said the first statement, if you just tell me that if it is wheat, a food that's made from wheat is a borei minei mezonos, I would have not have known that if the wheat is mixed with other foods that it becomes borei minei mezonos. Maybe you would have said if it's mixed with other foods and the other foods are the majority, you go after the majority. Therefore, you need to tell me, even if it's not only wheat, if the food contains wheat and other foods, that the bracha is still a mezon. That's what the Gemara says. That's why I need to tell me that. So the Gemara says, Iash mi'inan kol shehu. If we would have said, by the way, Ariel, if you want to tell Mike that we're on. Iash mi'inan kol shehu. If you would have told me that if the food is wheat or barley, that you have to say mezonos, I would have said hava mina mishum d'isi be'enei, because it's only the wheat and the barley by itself. But what about of al yedei taruvos? But if it's mixed with other foods, how do I know that the bracha would be a mezonos? No, I would not know. Therefore, kamash malon. Therefore, now on the next page, Mazel Tov Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Kosher. Therefore, I need to tell me kosher yeshbo, as long as it contains in the mixture wheat or barley, then the bracha is a borei minei mezonos. Yaron, are you able to hear us? Yosef,
Yes,
are you
Rabbi.
able to hear us?
Rabbi, so basically we don't go on the majority, right?
If you want to ask Yaron if he's able to hear us, okay? Ariel, ask him if he's able to hear us. So the Gemara says, maybe it's muted or not?
Rabbi, we hear you. You don't hear us.
And if you
Rabbi,
say,
do you hear me?
on the top of the page, Lamed Zayin, if you say, so just tell me, what do you say? Yeah, very good. Very good. Are you able to hear? Or is it muted? What? Oh, sorry, you have to hear. If okay. For some reason they can hear me, but I can't hear them. I don't know if you want to fix that, Ariel, it's up to you. The Gemara says the following: if you just tell me if it has wheat inside of it, hava mina, I would have said anything that contains the 5 species. That's when you say the bracha of borei minei mezonos. Oval ores v'dochen. But let's say you have rice or dochen, and dochen is something that's very similar to rice, another food that's very similar to rice. If you would have those foods, I would have said low. I would have said there's a difference between rice. If I have a mixture of rice and rice and other foods, right? So I would have said rice, if it's mixed with other foods, you will not say a borei minei mezonos. But what about rice by itself? What would you say? But now we all know, at least we say a borei minei mezonos on rice, correct? We say a borei for sure. That's one exception to the rule. We don't say ala michya when you have rice. When you have rice, you say, after you eat rice, you say a borei for sure. In contrast to wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye, that you say ala michya when you finish eating that. Right? But right now, this Gemara is going to, the rabbis here are going to be under the opinion that the bracha on rice is a shehakol. That you don't, the Gemara is going to say, you do not say, at least the Gemara here, the rabbis here of the opinion that you say a shahakol, you don't say a mizonot on rice. So that's what the Gemara is going to say. The Gemara is going to say, if you tell me anything that contains wheat, have amina, second line from the top. If it contains wheat in the mixture with other foods, then you say mazonos. But oris and dochen, which do not contain wheat, which is rice, low. I would say you do not say a bracha of mazono. Mishum da'ide taruvo. Because since the rice is mixed in with other foods, it's not going to get the bracha of borimene mizonot. Aval isa be'enei. But if the rice is by itself, nema afilu oriz v'dochen ha'mevorach al borimene mizonot. I would say that even on the rice, if it's by itself, where it's much more significant when the food is by itself than when it's mixed and melt and watered down with other foods, I would have said that you say a borim and mizonot, kamash malan. Therefore comes the other statement of the rabbis when it says kamash malan kol shehu, specifically mechamesh aminim, only if it's from the 5 species, hu de mevochen alav borim and mizonot. Only if it's from the 5 species that you say a borim and mizonot. But lafuki oriz v'dochen, but oriz v'dochen, which is not from the 5 species, it's not from the 5 grains, then you did not say, according to this opinion in the Gemara, the oriz v'dochen, you did not say a borei minei mizona. That's what the Gemara's conclusion, and that's why we need both statements. Is Mike able to hear us? He's not able to hear.
Good morning.
Mike,
I'm able to hear you, Rabbi. I just connected.
We're having a little technical difficulty on the computer that it's only a one-way street. You can hear me and I can't hear you, so we apologize for that. Okay. Maybe if we get fixed, we'll see. Now the Gemara is going to question this statement that we just said. What did we just say, everybody? We just said that the opinion of Rav Shmuel is that on rice you do not say a borim and a mizonot. That's their opinion. They're great rabbis. They're entitled to their opinion. Not raw cooked rice, because raw rice, since you don't eat raw rice, and normally it's not the normal type of eating. So then even us who say a borim and mizonot on rice, but it has to be cooked, right? If you take a raw piece of rice before you cook it, it's not such a edible. How does you can eat it, right? It has no taste, no benefit, no pleasure. Right, but you know that the Gemara brings, if you take they would say a bracha on raw wheat. Raw wheat be something, but raw rice, I don't know if you have any pleasure. It's like the Gemara said before. What about that we had yesterday? Certain types of food, certain types of spice.
Mike.
Right? If it's very spicy,
people don't
benefit from it. You would not say a bracha on that.
I had a question. Can you answer the question?
Only remember we said it. Moist. But if it's moist, you can eat it. People benefit from it. If it's not moist, people don't benefit. So that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, but Tanya, the Gemara challenges it, meaning
I think you just have to raise the volume there. That's it.
Tanya, we learned in the Bryce.
Yosef, put on mute, Yosef. It might work.
The Gemara says, 1 second. The Gemara starts, you're telling me you don't say borim and mizonot. Thank you very much, Ariel, for trying. Oris, you don't say borim and mizonot. Vatanya. We learned in the Bryce, this is what we learned in the Bryce. Mike, you have the Gemara about 8 lines from the top. On, you got it? 8 lines from the top on Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. But Tanya, we learned in the Bryce. Now remember, a Braita is from the, good morning Avram, good morning Shmuel. A Braita is from the early rabbis. So the late rabbis, Rav and Shmuel are Amoraim, later rabbis. You could challenge the later rabbis from early rabbis, and the later rabbis we could disprove the later rabbis from the early rabbis' opinion. So the Gemara says, Vatanya, Elahain, so the Gemara says, Vatanya, Heviu lefanav pat me'orez v'pat midochen. If they brought in front of you bread, you had bread, rice bread. They put in front of you rice bread. That's made from bread that's made from rice. Upas midochen, and pas made from dochen, which is similar to rice. Mevorech alav tchila v'sof. You say a bracha on the rice bread. Before you eat the rice bread, you say a bracha. After you eat the rice bread, you say bracha. But what type of bracha do you say on this rice bread? Kimase kidera. The same bracha you make on a cooked grain. When you cook wheat and you cook barley, what do you make on barley soup? You say a borei minei mizono. What do you say? You say al michya afterwards. So the same thing that you would say on noodles, you make a borei minei mizonot on noodles, and you say an al michya on noodles. That's what you do over here when you have the rice bread. This bread that you made from rice. You don't go ahead and say hamotzi lechem min aretz. You don't say birkat hamazon, but rather, what do you say on the rice bread? It says you say the same bracha that you say on a cooked grain, like the same bracha you say on, like we said, on noodles, which is a lower level. It's not the same level like you would say on bread. You say on motzi, but on rice bread made from rice, you say a mizono, and you say ala michya. Now, the gabe ma'aseh kedera. Now we know what's the bracha that you say on ma'aseh kedera when you have noodles. When you take wheat and you make noodles you cook it instead of baking the wheat. You cook the wheat. The bracha is mizono. And now you told me that the bracha on rice bread is the same bracha as the bracha on noodles. And the bracha on noodles is mizono. So this is a question on Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel went on record to say that on rice you do not say a borei minei mizono. And here we see that on rice bread you say mizono. And the Gemara is thinking, and we're going to explain in a moment, the same way on rice bread you'll say a borei minei mizono, so too on rice you would say borei minei mizono. So therefore, how could Rav Shmuel say you say a shahakol on rice? We see from here that you say a what? You should say a mezonot on rice. That's the Gemara's question. So one of the commentaries is maybe there's a difference between bread made out of rice and rice itself. Maybe bread made out of rice is a mizono, and rice itself is a shakol. So what's the Gemara's challenge? As Mr. Haber always says, maybe a different case might be a different law. So maybe our question in the Gemara is cooked rice. What's the bracha on cooked rice? Shakol, or is the bracha borei minei mizono? Right? That was the question. And let's just see one of right. So why doesn't the Gemara answer that there's a difference between cooked rice and bread made out of rice? Maybe bread out of rice is mezonot, and maybe cooked rice is shakol. So the Divrei David answers the following: that making rice bread is not as good. It's not the normal way to make rice bread. That's not the common bread that we make from rice. The more normal thing that you do with rice is you cook rice. Talk to the Chinese, right? Talk to the Asians. That's their regular staple food. They cook the rice. How common is rice bread? Is it common, Mr. Haber, to have rice bread? Not so common. You got to go to certain special stores and you got to go to certain supermarkets most probably to get rice bread, right? So therefore, it will not be better than if the cooked rice. If you can't tell me that rice bread is different than cooked rice. That rice bread is mizonos, but cooked rice is lower level and will be a shahakol. It can't be, because if it's better cooked than baked, the food is better cooked. And the food is made to be cooked, so it can't have a lower level than something which serves a lower purpose than that, right? That's the general rule, right? We said last week, if let's say let's say the example, you chew a piece of wheat, raw wheat that you spoke about before. You'll say hadama, chewing a raw piece of wheat. But when you cook a piece of wheat and you elevated the wheat, the bracha becomes a borim and mizono, right? It's a higher level bracha. So if it's serving a greater purpose because it's in this, if a cooked rice is greater than baked rice, so it cannot have a lower level bracha. If you bake bread from rice bread is a mizonot, so cooked rice for sure has to be mizonot. Is that clear? So therefore, the Gemara has a very good challenge at this point to Rav and Shmuel. All eyes seem to be showing that the bracha on rice is mizonot, not a shakol. Because on rice bread you make a mizono, so certainly on rice you should make a mizono, because cooked rice is better than rice bread. That's the Gemara's question. Good? Everybody with me? Mike, you with me? Yosef Sadiq, Shmuley, Avrami, Yaron, everybody clear? That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers the following. And again, the Gemara says, "Gabi Ma'aseh Kedera Tanya." We learned by Ma'aseh Kedera, B'tchila, Mevorach Lavar Min Mizon, Sof Mevorach Lavar Bracha Mei Achas Mei Shalosh. When you have noodles, you say Ala Michya, and it's called Bracha Achat Me'ein Shalosh. Why is the bracha after noodles called one bracha that's similar to three brachot? What does it mean? The bracha, the Ala Michya, is considered a mini version of three brachot, right? Ala Michya is how many brachot is Ala Michya? When you say, this person is supposed to say 100 brachot every day, you get credit, you say one, Ala Michya is one bracha. When you say Birkat HaMazon, you got total of 4 brachot. But originally, Birkat HaMazon contained 3 brachot. Then they added the 4th of Atova HaMeitiv. So Ala Michya is a mini of the original 3, which is therefore it's called Bracha Me'ein Shalosh. It's a short version of Birkat HaMazon. It talks about the theme of the 3 brachot that we find in Birkat HaMazon is found in the Ala Michya. And also even the theme of Atova HaMeitiv, that the 4th bracha of Birkat HaMazon is also found. Ki Ata Hashem Tova Meitiv Lakol is also found in the bracha Achat Me'ein Shalosh. But we still call it bracha Achat Me'ein Shalosh, and we don't call it, it's similar to the 4 brachot. We don't call it the bracha that's similar to the 4, even though really technically the Ala Michya is a mirror of the 4 brachot, because we added the 4th bracha of the Birkat HaMazon. So that's the bracha of Al HaMichya. That's called the Achat Me'ein Shalosh. And similarly, on Shabbat, Friday night, the Chazan, after Friday night davening, what does he say? He says a bracha Achat Me'ein Sheva. The Chazan, after you say you finished the Lalachash, Amidah, right? Friday night. What does the Chazan say? He goes and he says a bracha, right? That's a one bracha. That's a mini of this. He says bracha ta Hashem Akela Gadol Agiba V'Anor Akela Konei Shemayim V'Aretz Magen Avot Mikvarom. In the end, bracha ta Hashem B'Kadesh Shabbat. That's called Me'ein Shabbat. That's a mini of the Amidah. The Amidah, that's called Me'ein Shabbat. That's called the bracha. That's a mirror of the 7 of the Shemona Esrei. Just give you another place. The Friday night. That's right. See, Sammy knows. Friday night is Me'ein Sheva because it's a mini of the 7 brachot of the Amidah. Okay, back to the Gemara.
Sorry. In Amidah, I'm started like then he goes to Baruch Atah Hashem. You're not with the Chazan. Okay, what you're supposed to do, right? Or you have to go back and say it again, right, yourself?
We'll have to discuss this case.
Right.
Okay, so the Gemara says, "Kamasa kedera v'lo kamasa kedera." So the Gemara answers the following: the Gemara thought that when you said that rice, when you baked the rice and you went ahead and you made rice bread, it has a it's like masa kedera, it's like noodles. It's like noodles, not regarding the bracha that you say, the same bracha that you say on noodles, you say on the rice. Perhaps no. It's only like it's similar to it regarding that you say a bracha before you eat, and you say a bracha what? After you eat. And you don't say al birkat hamazon. That's the similarity. The similarity to noodles of rice is that just like on noodles, what bracha you make after you eat noodles? You say ala mechya. Do you say, even though it's from wheat, you don't say birkat hamazon on noodles? But if you had made the wheat and made bread out of the wheat, you say birkat hamazon. So, but that's the similarity of rice. Rice bread is similar to noodles from wheat. Noodles, what do you make maras on noodles in ala mechya? You don't say birkat hamazon on noodles. So too, you don't say birkat hamazon on what? On rice bread. Is that clear? Anybody ever had rice bread? I think I've seen it advertised, no? Morris, anyone ever seen rice bread? Kiva? No one ever saw Mr. Habe, you never saw rice bread? Okay. What? You've heard about it. Okay. Morris will find rice breads for us on Google. Yes. So if the main thing is the rice, then you say border mizonot. But I mean, if rice is not considered from the 5 grains. So then, if you add some pineapple to the rice, the majority is still the rice, right? Pineapple is just adding a little flavor to giving spicing it up a little bit. So you make them, and you're eating, and it's mixed together. The pineapple's mixed together with the rice. If it's mixed together as one, then you would just make a mazonot.
If you have 6 plates of pasta, you have to say that the mazon.
The pasta you will know because it's never bread. Pasta.
No, if you eat 6 kazai.
That's only something that has some similarity to bread, like cake. Cake is different than pasta. Pasta is not like cake. Pasta is different. You can have a whole pot of pasta. You will not see birkat hamazon. I don't recommend having a whole pot of pasta. Take it to a clinic, exactly. Okay, so the Gemara says the following. That's what the Gemara says. Kamasa kedera v'lo kamasa kedera. The ilu ma'asa kedera. If when you make a pot of noodles, betchila bar minazonos u'besof bracha chamei shalosh. After you have them, you have a great day. But Mr. Dahan is there. Yeah. But the ilu hacha. But over here, the Gemara says, betchila mevora shakol niyeh b'dvaro. The Gemara is thinking you'll make a shakol niyeh b'dvaro on the rice. So the Gemara thinks, said the halacha is not that way. You see mizonot. And l'b'sof bari nefashot rabot v'chesonon al kol ma shebara. And what's the bracha after you have rice? What's the bracha afterwards? You say bari nefashot. Now, what does bari nefashot rabot? What does bari nefashot mean? So if you look at the top tosfot, the top tosfot in the corner, borei nefashot rabot v'chesronon, right? You have the tosfot, Mike. You have the tosfot, Morris. You got the tosfot, Mr. Haber. You have the top tosfot all the way up, Mr. Haber. You got it. Tosfot says, what does it mean? Borei nefashot rabot. Hashem creates many nefashot, many people, and v'chesronon. What does chesronon mean? And the things that they are missing, the things that they need for life to live. Hashem creates those things that are vital to life, like bread and water. You can't live without bread and water. So Hashem creates the chesronon, the main things that we're missing that we need in order to live. We're thanking Hashem for the basic staples of life that He gives to us. In addition to all the things that He gives to us to pep us up for enjoyment purposes that we don't need in order to live. Do you need to have an apple, an orange, a pear? Do you need fruits in order to live? You don't need fruits in order to live. A person can live without fruit. But we thank Hashem for giving us both the necessities of life, the chesronon, and also al kol ma shebara lahachiyot ben nefesh kochai. We also give Him thanks for what? For the other things that we don't need in order to live, but He does it because He loves us. And He gives us things. He gives us things that are things that we don't need in order to live. Gives us a little extra, things that we enjoy, so to speak, a little more. If you look at the language of Tosfos, look at Tosfos. Al kol ma shebara lahachiyot ben nefesh kochai. Second line. Koloma. Al kol ma shebe'olam. And if everything that's in this world, shegam im lo boram. Even if God would not have created those foods, yicholim ha'olam l'chayot belohem, that we could have lived without the vegetables and without the fruits. Ki'im l'tanug shelo baron ki'im l'tanug ba'alma. God created this thing to give us some enjoyment. God creates things for our enjoyment. Kimo tapuchim, apples. Apples, God gave you apples. He gave you different fruits in order to enjoy. Some people overdo with the enjoyment in life, but we see there's a certain basic enjoyment that Hashem gave to the people. That Hashem gives, blessed be the one who gives life to the worlds, to this world, to the next world. Everything that goes on upstairs, everything that comes down downstairs, Hashem provides for all the worlds. The Yerushalmi in the Jerusalem Talmud, it concluded, Baruch atah Hashem che'olamim. That Baruch atah Hashem, that's not our minhag, but they had such a minhag. Baruch atah Hashem. They concluded the bracha with a Baruch atah Hashem, the beginning with the beginning and an end with a Baruch atah Hashem. And sometimes we learned about this. A short bracha does not need a conclusion, like Baruch atah Hashem bar pi adama. When a bracha contains multiple ideas, so sometimes you will have a beginning and has an end. So I wonder if that's also the issue in the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi feels this is not such a short bracha. Therefore, the Yerushalmi feels not only it needs to open up with a Baruch atah Hashem, needs to conclude with a Baruch atah Hashem. It's like you say, Hashem Yatzai, if you go to a bathroom. You start with a Baruch atah Hashem, you end with a Baruch atah Hashem. So that's the question. Where is Bar Nefashot? What category does Bar Nefashot fall into? Is it a short bracha that does not require an ending of Baruch atah Hashem, or is it a longer bracha that requires an ending? That's the issue between the question. Now, the Gemara now challenges from another point. You got out of it. You were able to answer the question, and I still haven't proved my point that the bracha is a mizonot, and you're still holding to your guns, so to speak, if I can use that expression today. I don't know. You're still holding to your guns that you hold. I think I got some smiles on that from Mike and from Mr. Haber. And we still, the question here is Rav and Shmuel correct when they say that the bracha on rice is shahakol? Are they correct or not? So the Gemara again is going to try to prove them wrong. At the end, the Gemara is going to prove them. It's going to come out not like that. Now, va'uriz lav ma'aseh kedera, when we're saying rice is not included in a cooked food that's considered a mizonot, just like cooked noodles. You're gonna say that rice it's not in the category of noodles. Vatanya, we have a Braita, again, an early recording. We have a Braita that says, Eilu hein masa kedera. The following are considered masa kedera, that you go ahead and you say a bore minei mezono. Chilka. Chilka, if you have a cook you made from wheat, you go ahead and you cut the wheat into two pieces. Each piece of wheat, you cut the two pieces and you made a food out of it. You cooked it. So if you did that, or chilka, or you made a food from each, again, chilka is like from the language of chelek. A chelek is a portion. You cut it into half. Targis, you cut the wheat into three, every piece of wheat into three pieces. And then you have soles, zoriz, targis, soles. Targis is it's cut into three pieces. Soles, flour, if you made something from flour. Zoriz if it was cut into four pieces. The flour was cut, each piece of wheat was cut into four pieces. Arsan, each piece of wheat was cut in, you crushed the wheat into five, meaning it's not the normal grinding. When you grind the wheat, it turns into flour. Here, you didn't grind the wheat, you just took, let's say, a mortar, you crushed the wheat, either into two, into three, into four, into five. Any of this amounts, what is the bracha? The bracha is going to be, and then you cook something, you put it into water and you cooked it up. You say a bar name mezono. Orez. And here's the winning, here's what we say, rice. You cook rice. You made rice, you cooked rice. What's the bracha? The bracha is bar name mezono. So we see clearly that rice, you say a bar name mezono. So the Gemara says, maybe it's not such a good proof. Why? Hamani, maybe that's an opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. Meaning to say, the Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori Omer, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says, Orez min daganu. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says that Orez is counted like all the other grains. Like you have the 5 grains, he considers it one of the grains. Either he considers it the same level as the other grains. And just like the other grains, you can make matzah, right? You can make matzah from the 5 grains. Wheat, spelt, you heard, everyone knows it's spelt matzah, right? All those things you can make wheat, you can make matzah from those things. And he says you can actually make matzah from rice. On Pesach, you can fulfill your mitzvah of matzah from rice matzah. And also the rule is that in order to make matzah is only on something that could become chametz. Not if something that is not able to become chametz, you can't make matzah from that. Meaning wheat has the ability to become chametz. If you leave it, if the wheat comes in contact, flour comes in contact with water, and you leave it not for a certain amount of time, it will turn into chametz. But something that does not have the ability to become chametz does not have the ability to be used for matzah. And he says you can make matzah on Pesach. He looks at it just like, and chametz is obviously from the grains that are considered grains. So he considers rice just like any of the other grains. And therefore, maybe the opinion of the Braita that says that rice, you make him his own oath, that's in sync with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. That's that rabbi's opinion. But we know most rabbis disagree when it comes to Pesach. You can't make matzah from rice. You can't. You won't be subject to the punishment of karet for eating rice on Pesach. That rice is chametz. We don't say that. So since we don't imagine, there's an opinion that says that if a person would eat rice on Pesach, he cooked rice on Pesach, there's a rabbi out there that says that cooked rice is just like any other cooked grain that's subject to chametz. But that's not the accepted opinion. And since it's not the accepted opinion, so too, regarding the bracha on rice, you will not say a mezono. That's what the Gemara wants to say. It's no proof The fact that you found that some early rabbi says you say a mezonot on rice, cooked rice, that maybe that's the opinion of Yochanan ben Nori, but we don't agree with that opinion. So therefore, that's not a question on Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel says you say a shahakol on rice, and then you're challenging me. What do you mean? I found a place that you say a mezonot on rice. The Gemara answers that's the opinion of Yochanan ben Nori. Mr. Hafer, am I clear or not? But we don't agree with that opinion. And since we don't agree with that opinion, so Rav Shmuel are entitled to their opinion to say a shakol on rice. That's what the Gemara is suggesting to get out of the possible knockout on Rav Shmuel. That's what the Gemara says. The Tanya, Yochanan ben Nori Omer, Orez min daganu. Orez is one of the grains. V'chayavin al chimutzo karei. And if a person made, and it becomes it becomes leaven, it becomes chametz, if it becomes sour, a person and he eats the rice on Pesach, he will be chayiv karet. And what is karet? Being cut off. The Rambam says means lose olam haba. A person willingly violates. That's the same punishment for nidah. A person violates the sin of nidah and intentionally goes and he sleeps with a woman when she's a nidah. It's karet. So that's the same punishment for what? For chametz. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says, "Chayavin al chimutzo karet, v'odam yotzei yedei chavoto b'Pesach." And you can fulfill your mitzvah of matzah on Pesach. You can the night of Pesach, the 15th of Pesach. You could go ahead, according to this Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori opinion, you can make matzah the same way you can fulfill it from spelt. You can have spelt matzah technically to fulfill your mitzvah. I don't know that we do it, but maybe some people have certain diets. If they have some issues, they'll use spelt matzah. So he says you could use rice matzah, but we don't hold to that. Aval Rabbanan, lo, the Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan say you cannot use rice matzah. So therefore, maybe according to the Rabbanan, the same way you can't use matzah from rice, maybe rice you will not make a mezonot, you make a shahakol. That's what the Gemara wants to say. So the Gemara says, "V'Rabbanan lo." You're telling me the Rabbanan do not say you say a mezonot on rice? V'Tanya, we have a braita. This is going to be the knockout. Now it's coming up the knockout on Rav Shmuel, and we're going to see now that we're going to conclude that rice is a mezonot. That's what the Gemara now is going to do, because the Gemara says, if you chew wheat, right? You chew the raw wheat. We're about before the wide lines. We're about 5-6 lines before the wide lines in the Gemara, right? If someone chews the wheat while the wheat is complete, Mivarech Allah Borei Pri Adama. The bracha that you'll make on it is the Borei Pri Adama. But in Tachna V'Afar, but if you went ahead and you ground the wheat, that's the normal thing you do for wheat. Bake it, that's the normal thing you did. But you know what he did after he baked it? He went ahead and he threw it into the pot and he cooked it up. And then Ubishla. And now he cooked up this wheat that was first he made into a bread. He now cooked it after he made it into bread. So imagine you have a roll, take a roll, you have a roll, and after you have a roll, and you go ahead and your pita, let's say a pita. You had a pita, and now the pita is a motzi, correct? And now he went ahead and he took the pita, we make a motzi pita, I presume you make a motzi pita too, and you go ahead and you took the pita and you put it into water and you cooked it up. So now the Gemara says, if the pieces of the pita remain whole and they didn't melt into, they didn't dissolve into, and it's still a whole piece of the bread. If it remains whole, so then we say batchila in the big. Then it still retains the bracha hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Now Tosfos says that if the What's mean that it's whole? If you pick it up, it doesn't fall apart. If you pick it up and the pita just falls apart, just melts in your hand, that means it's not considered complete. So that's how Tosfos says. And Tosfos also says that some will say that if you would pick, if as long as the piece will remain a size of a kazayit, that when you pick it up, it will remain the size of an olive. That means the piece is still intact. It's not the pieces are not less than a kazayit. It didn't come to very small little pieces as a result of the cooking. It still remained a certain amount. So now, if bismasha pushes kayamot, betchila mevorach lamotzi lechem in aretz, u'lusof mevorach lashalosh brachot, you'll say hamotzi lechem in aretz. You'll say hamotzi on this pita, that even though you cooked it subsequently. V'im ena pushes kayamot, and if the pieces are not kayamot, it dissolved. It came into small little nothings. This pita, as a result of the cooking, so then it lost the bracha of hamotzi. It's no longer hamotzi. You say borei minei mezonot. L'besov mevorach le bracha achas mishalosh. They say ala michya at the end. But koses is ores. What about if you did the same thing to rice? So here it's interesting because here it says mevorach le borei briadama. Seems that the rice, what Morris was talking about before, it seems that maybe there's some sort of people do get some benefit and enjoyment out of raw rice. I don't understand how we do. People do, but if you chewed rice, you say a borei priyadama. But tachno va'afo bishlo, if you ground the rice and you cook the rice and you bake the rice, and after you bake the rice, you cooked it. So then we say afal pisha prusas kayamot. Even though the pieces are whole, you still say borei minei mezonot. Meaning to say, in contrast to other grains, that if you cooked it and we say if it remains intact, you say hamotzi, it retains hamotzi. But rice, if you ground it, you baked it, and then you cooked it, even if it remains intact, you'll say a mezonah. You will not say hamotzi. B'tchila mevorach b'labar mezonos v'sov mevorach lebracha achas meisholosh. And at the end, you will say, if this opinion says that on rice, that you went ahead and you baked and then you cooked. If it remains whole, you'll say, and it's still large pieces, it didn't fall apart, you'll say ala michya. Mani. Who's the author of this breita? If you tell me the author of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says that rice, if rice just like bread. So even if you baked it and then you cooked it and the pieces are whole, why shouldn't you should say hamotzi lechem in aretz? Why does it say you say mezonot? The answer is because it's not Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. It's the opinion of the Chachamim. So we see from here that the Chachamim hold that on rice you say borei minei mezonot. That's the Gemara's conclusion. Because if you say if it's true that because here it says you make a borei minei mezonot on the rice. And why do you make a borei minei mezonot? Because it's a proof that rice is not a shakol. And if you're going to tell me maybe this is the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori that says that rice you could use for Pesach, so if that's the case, so why don't you say hamotzi when you bake the rice? You made rice bread, and then if you cooked it, it should be just like any other grain. That if you took bread, if you took pita and you made a pita and then you cooked it. We said if it retains its size, if it remains a piece, you still make hamotzi. So why don't you make the hamotzi on the rice if it remains in its pieces? The answer is obviously because we're not going like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori said you would say hamotzi. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori always been doganu, and hamotzi lechem and aretz shalosh brachos b'ay lebrei. You would have to say hamotzi and birkat hamazon according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori on this rice bread that was baked and cooked and remained intact. Elalav Rabbanan. Therefore, the opinion of Rabbanan to Yufta the Ramashmuel. Therefore, the Gemara's conclusion is that the Rabbanan hold that on rice, if you cook rice, you'll say a borei minei mizonot, and that's the conclusion of halacha. If you cook rice, you say a what? A borei minei mizonot, and we say a borei nefashot after we have cooked rice. We do not say ala michya, that we say a borei nefashot.
Rabbi, can you
Okay,
hear me?
yes, Mr. David. That we have to look at, because if you made the bread with the intention to make it small little pieces to grind it, like you have these croutons, certain type of things, certain little pieces of stuff. I think if you made it with the intention to make it into those small little pieces, you might not make hamotzi on it, but we have to do more research on that subject matter. Okay? Because those bread croutons, I don't, they're small pieces, right? It's made to be that little crouton. Also, they fry. It might not be. Also, they're frying it. Also, right? They add some other things to it. Also, right? There's some flavor to it. We'll have to see more about that as we go along.
Rabbi, can you hear us? You cannot hear us,
The
Mike.
bracha on rice is mezonot. The bracha b'rishona is mezonot on rice, and then after you eat rice, the bracha achrona is borin nefashot. That's the exception to the rule. The general rule is whenever you make a bar mitzvah on noodles and all that stuff, you make mitzvot on barley, on noodles. The bracha achrona is ala michya, but the bracha achrona on rice is bar nefashot. Okay, so it's not. Thank you. Bye bye. So it's not the same. It's obviously it's not considered from the grains. It's not considered it's not from the 5 grains. So therefore, the only thing that we will say ala michya on would be something that you would have the ability to say birkat hamazon on, right? Meaning a rice bread, we're not going to say birkat hamazon on rice bread because it's not bread. We don't consider it. Therefore, you would not say ala michya. So have a great day, everybody. Okay, now let's see if we can fix the. Kiva, do you want to do a test drive? Want to do a test drive? Say, have a great day, everybody.
Rabbi, have a good day.
We're gonna try to fix the microphone. Sorry about
Rabbi,
that.
tell Max, Ariel, put your mask. Have a good day, everybody.
We can't hear them.
This mic, this is working.
Yeah, but we can't hear them. I can't hear Yaron. I can't hear Yosef and Tzaddik. They
You
can hear
cannot
each
hear
other,
us,
right? You
Rabbi.
can hear each other, but we can't hear you.
We can all hear except you guys.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, guys.
Everybody, have a good day.
If you want to put your phone on, I'm saying, Kiva, if you want to put your phone on, and then you could talk, and then you could check, see if you can fix it. You know what I'm saying? He said let's close it off if you want. Shut off, then we'll come back because maybe that will help it.